Welcome back once again, all of my low carb friends, and for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Today I have another very easy keto bread recipe for you. Today I am going to show you how to make an updated version of my keto coconut flour bread loaf. And if you want a printable version of this recipe, you can check out my website at janetsdeliciouslowcarbkitchen.com. You can find a printable version of this recipe and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see lots of easy, delicious, low-carb keto recipes, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. That way you can be notified every time I put out new videos. And if you are a music lover, make sure you check out the link in the description to my other YouTube channel, Inspirational Songs with Janet. I've posted another new song there, so make sure you check that out and subscribe there also. And remember, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, I go live on TikTok. So if you would like to join me there at Janet's Low Carb Kitchen, you are of course more than welcome to. And if you would like to help support this channel, make sure you scroll down in the description of the video. You'll see some affiliate links. Anytime you purchase anything using those affiliate links, a small portion of your purchase will go to me and help support the channel. So while we do all that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Line a 7x3-inch loaf pan or an 8x4-inch loaf pan with some parchment paper. Basically, the difference between the two is if you do it in a 7x3-inch loaf pan, your loaf is going to be a little bit taller, whereas if you bake this in a 8x4-inch loaf pan, your loaf is going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit wider. I'm actually using a 1.5 quart glass casserole just because I really like the way my bread cooks when it's in this, and it's probably around 7.5 by 3.5, so it's somewhere in between the two. But either one, 7x3 or 8x4, will work. Just make sure you line it with parchment paper and allow the paper to hang over the sides a little bit so you can easily remove your loaf once it's done baking. Then set your pan aside for a minute. Grind 10 grams or around 2 tablespoons of whole psyllium husk until it's about half of its volume. So after you're done grinding it, it's going to be around 1 tablespoon, give or take a bit. It doesn't have to be exact. I usually put mine in my coffee grinder for about 20-25 seconds, and that's usually perfect as far as texture goes. Put the ground up psyllium husk into a large mixing bowl. Add 112 grams or around 1 cup of coconut flour, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 15 grams or around 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and if you want to, you can add some dry spices or dry seasonings to give your bread a little bit more flavor. I want my bread to be neutral flavored, so I'm just adding 1 tablespoon of instant dry yeast. I like a little bit of a yeast flavor in my bread. As I've told you guys many times before, the instant dry yeast that I add to my coconut breads is strictly for flavor. The yeast does not help coconut flour baked goods to rise. Coconut flour baked goods don't rise very much even with the help of yeast. Sift all the dry ingredients all together until they're fully combined and there are no lumps. Add 4 large room temperature eggs. Measure out 168 grams or around 3/4 cup of solid coconut oil. Then melt the coconut oil in your microwave or on your stovetop until it is completely melted. I just microwaved mine for about 30-45 seconds, something like that. You just want it to be completely melted. If you don't want to use coconut oil, you can use any oil of your choice. Just make sure it is liquid, and it's 168 grams or around 3/4 of a cup. Add the warm melted coconut oil, or whatever oil you're using, to your mixing bowl with your other ingredients. Add 180 milliliters or around 3/4 cup of warm keto milk of your choice. My favorite keto milk is always coconut milk. And you do want this to be warm. It doesn't have to be hot. You just want it to be a little warmer than room temperature. It's just going to help your ingredients bind a whole lot easier. If you're wanting this bread to be a little bit on the sweet side, you can add 1 to 2 tablespoons of keto syrup to add a little bit of a sweetness to it. I'm going to be using my bread for keto French toast, which I will be putting the recipe out for that. So I don't want my bread to be sweet because it's going to be sweetened enough with the French toast ingredients. Add 118 milliliters or around a 1/2 cup of hot water. Now you do want this hot. Doesn't necessarily have to be boiling, but you do want it to be very, very hot. The heat is going to help activate your psyllium husk so that the psyllium husk starts acting the way gluten would act and hold all your ingredients together and get that little bit of a sticky, stretchy feel to your dough. Once all the wet ingredients have been added to your dry ingredients, stir everything together for at least 2 minutes. At first, it's going to look very soupy and very wet, but as you continue to stir it for 2 minutes, the psyllium husk and the coconut flour are going to start to absorb that extra moisture, and you're going to have your mixture looking more like a very thick batter. It's going to be wet, but it's going to be thick. After 2 minutes and you have a thick dough / batter in your bowl, then scrape down the sides of the bowl and push the dough to the center of the bowl. Then take your hands and knead the dough in the bowl for about 2 minutes. The dough is still going to be very wet, but it should be thick enough that you can pick it up and fold it over a little bit so you're getting that kneading motion. You're wanting to get the dough to be flexible and stretchy and have a little bit of air in it so you can have a lighter texture in your bread. So knead it for the full 2 minutes. Also, as you're kneading it, the psyllium husk and coconut flour are going to continue to absorb that extra moisture. So as you're kneading it, it's going to be getting a little bit more thick. After 2 minutes of kneading it, it will still be wet, but it should have thickened enough to where it can all hold together in one place without spreading all over the place. So push the dough all to the center of your bowl, then allow it to sit at room temperature for about 15 minutes so it can continue to absorb all that extra moisture. After the dough is set for 15 minutes, it is still going to be wet, but again, it should still have thickened up some more, and it's going to have like a wet kind of spongy type feel to it. Scoop the dough into your prepared loaf pan, then use your hands or a spatula and spread the dough evenly throughout your loaf pan. Don't press it too tight. You want to be able to keep some of that air in the dough so that your bread can expand a little bit. This bread does expand, so it does rise a little bit. If you pack it too tight, there's a possibility that you can end up with a little bit of a damp center in your bread, and you don't want that. Once the dough is all spread evenly throughout the pan, take a butter knife and just kind of drag it around the edges of the dough to pull the dough just slightly away from the edges of the pan. This just helps your dough to be able to breathe so that the dough can expand while it's baking, but still have room for those little air pockets that makes a nice crumb in your bread. Place the loaf in your preheated oven, bake at 350 degrees for 45 to 50 minutes or until the bread is golden and a tester comes out clean. Once the bread is done baking, remove it from the oven, then allow it to cool in the pan for about 30 minutes so it can firm up a bit. After about 30 minutes and the bread has firmed up a little bit, use a butter knife and gently drag the butter knife around the edges of the bread to loosen it a little bit from the edges of the pan. Then grasp your overhanging parchment paper and gently lift the loaf out of the pan and transfer it to a wire rack. Leave the paper underneath the loaf for just a few minutes. This is just going to continue to help your bread to firm all up. So let it sit on the parchment paper for about 10 minutes so it can firm up a little bit more. After about 10 minutes, slide the parchment paper out from underneath your bread and let it sit on the wire rack for at least 1 hour before slicing and using it. I usually let mine sit for at least an hour and a half. You just want to make sure that it's completely cool before you slice into it. Also, this is made with psyllium husk, and I've talked to you guys before about how breads and baked goods that are made with psyllium husk or xanthan gum can have a damp center. So letting it sit and cool completely will help prevent a damp center because it'll give it time so that the dough can absorb any extra moisture if there is any extra moisture. After it's cooled completely, slice it into your desired size pieces. You can use it in any recipe that requires bread, obviously. Once the bread is cooled completely, slice it into your desired size slice. Check that out. Look at the crumb on that. Doesn't that look delicious? Nice and soft, nice and flexible, nice and sturdy for whatever you want to put on there. If you do have any leftovers, store the bread in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 3 days, or in an airtight container in your refrigerator for up to 5 days, or in an airtight freezer-safe container in your freezer for up to 2 months. If you do choose to freeze this, make sure you slice the bread into your desired size pieces before you freeze it and put some parchment paper in between each one of the slices so they don't freeze on top of each other, and you're good to go with that. So eat and enjoy. And that's the recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to see more recipes like this, make sure you click that thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.